You know, when you think about a nation's health, your mind probably goes to hospitals, doctors, human wellness. But what if one of the biggest health challenges a country faces isn't in its cities at all, but out in its pastures and on its farms? Well, in Egypt, there's this constant battle being waged against diseases that threaten its livestock. And believe me, the stakes are way higher than you might think.
Because this isn't just about sick animals, not at all. This is about food security. It's about the economic stability of countless families. And as we're about to see, it's directly tied to public health. The well-being of Egypt's cattle, its sheep, and its goats is fundamentally connected to the well-being of its people. Okay, let's dive into this.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to break down this invisible war being fought on Egypt's farms. First, we'll get to know the enemy, the main diseases we're up against. Then, we'll see exactly how they spread. We're going to look at the best weapons we have for prevention and what happens when those defenses get breached. And finally, we'll connect all the dots and see why this fight is so critical for our own health and how we can secure a healthier future for everyone.
So let's start by meeting the adversaries in this fight. Now, these aren't some new invaders. We're talking about endemic diseases, which basically means they're always there, lurking in the region. This creates this constant grinding pressure on farmers and veterinarians day in and day out. And what's really wild here is just how many different kinds of threats we're talking about. I mean, you've got these super contagious viruses like foot and mouth disease, and it's not just one version. Nope, there are multiple strains active in Egypt, which makes it a constantly moving target. Then there's a lumpy skin disease, which can just rip through a herd. And you've also got diseases spread by bugs, right? Like major tick-borne illnesses. And then there's brucellosis. We're going to circle back to that one because it's a direct threat to people. And for sheep and goats, you have PPR, sometimes called goat plague, which is a massive, massive problem. This is the complex battlefield farmers are on every single day.
So knowing who these diseases are is just step one. To really fight back effectively, you have to understand how they move. How do they get from one animal to another? Let's take a look at their main attack routes.
This table really breaks it down nicely into three main pathways. First, you've got aerosol and direct contact. Just think of foot and mouth disease spreading like the common cold, through the air, through touch. It makes it incredibly hard to contain. Second, you have biting insects, which are basically tiny unwitting delivery drones for disease. Ticks and flies can carry something like lumpy skin disease from one animal right to the next. And finally, there's contamination. A disease like brucellosis can spread through infected milk or other materials, which is a huge danger not just for other animals, but for any person who handles them.
Okay, so if we know the enemy's tactics, we can build a solid defense. And when you're dealing with diseases that are always around, prevention is everything. It's the whole game. So let's look at the prevention playbook. It's really a three-layer defense. First up, you vaccinate. For diseases like FMD and PPR, this is our number one weapon, period. Second, you secure the perimeter. This is all about biosecurity, controlling what comes onto the farm, keeping things clean, being strict. And third, you control the vectors. That means getting a handle on the tick and fly populations to break that chain of transmission. And the key thing to remember is, you can't just do one of these. They all have to work together to be truly effective. But look, even with the best defenses in the world, sometimes the enemy gets past the gates. Outbreaks happen. So what's the plan when an infection is already active? And this is a really crucial point. For many of these viral diseases, there's no magic pill that just cures it. The goal isn't to kill the virus with a drug, but to help the animal survive the infection. We call this supportive care. It's all about managing the symptoms, the fever, the pain, and preventing other problems from cropping up, just to give the animal's own immune system the best possible shot at winning the fight. And this quote highlights one of the most critical rules in all of medicine, for animals and for us. Antibiotics fight bacteria. They do nothing against viruses. So using them for a virus like FMD is like trying to put out a fire with a hammer. It's just the wrong tool for the job. Their only role here is to fight off a bacterial infection that might try to take hold while the animal's immune system is weak. Using them any other time is not just a waste, it actually helps create super bugs. So what does this supportive care actually look like? Well, a vet might use what are called NSAIDs, things like flunixin, to bring down fever and inflammation. And then, if and only if a secondary bacterial infection like pneumonia shows up, that's when they'll bring out an antibiotic like oxytetracycline. See? It's a targeted strategic response, not just throwing everything at the problem. Okay,
Now we're at the part of our explainer that brings this whole thing home for absolutely everyone, whether you live on a farm or in the middle of a city. This is where animal health undeniably becomes human health. Zoonosis. It's a single word, but it's a huge concept. It's the scientific term for any disease that can jump from an animal to a person. And this isn't some rare, abstract threat. It is an active, real-world risk with these endemic diseases. Let's use brucellosis as a perfect and honestly pretty scary example. In cattle, it causes all sorts of reproductive issues. But for a person who comes into contact with an infected animal or maybe drinks unpasteurized milk, the consequences are severe. It can cause a chronic, debilitating sickness with recurring fevers and joint pain that can go on for years. This isn't just a sick cow anymore. It's a potential human health crisis waiting to happen. And brucellosis is not a one-off case, not by a long shot. The source material points out several other zoonotic threats in Egypt. You've got bovine tuberculosis, which is a classic example. ORF, a virus from sheep, can cause these really painful skin sores on people. And bacterial infections like salmonellosis and leptospirosis can also make that jump. This just hammers home why controlling these diseases in animals is a fundamental part of keeping the public healthy. So when you're faced with this complex web of animal disease, these different transmission routes, and these very real public health risks, what's the way forward? How do we secure a healthier future for both livestock and people? Well, the answer really lies in a unified effort. It's a team sport. It takes farmers on the front lines being vigilant about biosecurity and prevention. It takes veterinarians providing smart, strategic care and using medicines wisely. And it takes strong public health policies that support things like vaccination programs, disease tracking, and food safety standards like pasteurizing milk. No single group can win this fight alone. So what's the big takeaway here? For a long time, I think we've treated animal health and human health as two separate worlds. But as we've just seen, they're two sides of the very same coin. The health of the herd is the health of the community. So the next time you think about public health, maybe remember the pastures and the farms, because protecting them might just be one of the most direct ways we have to protect ourselves.